Good evening, folks, and thanks for joining us for Console Wars. My name's Tom Battinger, joined here by Ryan Agro-Bailey and Transonics. Welcome back, my friend. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good now. I'm enjoying the event.
I'm glad to have another New Yorker on the set. I usually got to deal with.
I'm in between them, man.
Pittsburgh here. But you have been a long-standing member of the console community.
OG Xbox player.
Yeah, since day one.
Yep.
And so we're going to be borrowing Transonics' brain here to figure out what's going on. Agro, of course, had his time in the sun as well. And now we're going to look at Astral versus InControl. Two of the teams that have really been dominant in their respective roles. Astral, kind of since day one, has been a name in Xbox Smite. And as soon as PlayStation opened the doors, InControl walked in with a squad.
InControl was their namesake, basically, all year long. I mean, XCovi is definitely the guy that I always look to on this team. Even though he joined a little bit later than a lot of those members, XCovi's just had so much success on that competitive level that I think he gives them a lot of extra knowledge.
He has the most experience between all of them, yeah.
Yeah, he's played on a number of Xbox teams and then moved over to the PlayStation League to be able to do that there. You've played against XCovi. What can you say about his play style?
XCovi, he's really good. He builds kind of weird, like Gemma ISO third, but it works out for him. So
he's got his own play style.
Yeah, his own play style, yeah.
But he's still able to bring it on home. He's got a lot of help on that team as well.
He does. I mean, InControl is definitely a unit. It's not just the XCovi show all the time by any means. It's a really well put together team. But I think that XCovi being the guy is something that InControl doesn't always need to have. I mean, you were former teammates with him all of last year, basically. And XCovi's definitely a very good player to step in and do what he needs to do. But I don't know that you want him to be the star of your team necessarily.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
He can kind of melt when it comes time to big moments, I've really seen. Not so clutch at times, but he has players around him, as you said. Joltak has been a #1 player, and a couple of other players have really done that as well. Astral across the way, I think, have a little bit more foundation underneath them,
Definitely.
a little bit more storied as far as the Xbox League is concerned. We're actually going to talk to him. We've got the coach standing by on stage. Let's have that conversation.
Here now with Astral's coach, Visions. And first things first, how's the team mentality surrounding this debut? Because it's been some time since we've seen Astral play.
Right now, we're going into this mentally prepared. And what was the thing you asked?
Well, it's been some time since we've seen Astral Authority actually play, and now coming up against this PS4 team. Are you guys really looking forward to that?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. We're not underestimating them. We're giving them the well-deserved, I stink at interviews. We're giving them the credit they deserve. We're going to try really hard and hope to show up today.
And as the coach, you've had a chance now to see how Chapo has adapted to this team. So what are some of your thoughts on that?
He's adapted really good. I'm surprised because he doesn't really play with the controller often since he plays PC, and he's adapted really well.
Well, I know that you guys are probably excited and ready to get into the action, so I'm going to let you get back to the team now and take care of the coaching responsibilities. So good luck to you guys, and have fun with the set.
Yeah.
Back to you guys.
Great work there, Taco. Thanks for that conversation. And Astral right now hoping to flex against InControl. We went in depth about InControl, talked a little bit about their mid laner, XCovi, and what he brings to the battlefield. What can you say about Astral?
Astral is a team that Taco touched on in the interview. I think the biggest question mark for this team is how well has Chapo adjusted to the controller and to a new role in support.
No, I feel like Chapo has enough game sense to play any role if he puts the time into it. So I don't feel like that's a bad pickup at all.
What do you think is the question mark for you then about Astral Authority?
Nothing really, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know.
They are looking really solid right now, and this is a team that has so much competitive experience. Chapo included, as Trans mentioned, that you got Wolves and Layers and dudes who have been around for so long on the console side and had a ton of success while they've been here.
A lot of times when we look at teams, superlative that you like to hang on your mantle, so to speak, is, well, this player was once considered or still is the best player in the game. I think they have two. Wolves and Layers at various times of their career have just been the best players on the sticks.
Yep, I agree.
And you've been able to play against them. You've played with Chapo. Is this a team that can meld and match aggro?
Yeah, I think that Layers and Chapo are pretty well documented on having some ego at times. And ego is healthy in a competitive setting. I'll always claim that. I do think that if Astral fall behind, maybe Wolves doesn't talk quite as much, usually a quieter guy. Layers can get frustrated, Chapo can get frustrated. I think that's where Astral could potentially find some trouble.
When it comes to ego, I mean, I think there's room. You played on a team with Chapo, so if that
I feel like
could work-
Chapo's going to be the hype man, though.
Exactly. And when we watched you and Wolves play together, you guys were very silent. I'll never forget, I asked you guys on camera, I was like, hey, you know, you guys don't really talk all that much. And Wolves just said, I let my play do the talking. And I've always loved that. But you guys had rambunctious players surrounding you on the team. Now, as we look at this Astral lineup, that's Chapo's job. He's the one that's going to provide that sort of boisterous atmosphere, and I think that's very important.
I feel like the spotlight's on Chapo, to be honest, because he's the new pickup and support. Yeah.
It's going to be a tall task for Chapo and the boys to take care of InControl. How are the PlayStation characters going to poise themselves? That's what we're going to find out.
Interesting question, F-Dot. That's actually the very first thing I wanted to ask. InControl's very own Xerxes. Excited to be here at the big stage, LAN for the first time?
Yeah, first time at LAN. Kind of excited, especially since it's Worlds and everything, so excited to coach InControl and everything.
What's it like for you guys? Because Astral Authority are by far probably considered the public favorites. So does that impact the team mentality in the slightest?
No, we're pretty confident going into the games, you know, talking picks and bans a lot with other players like Zojer and everything. Like, we've been really going over, like, just strats and, like, in-game stuff, so.
So as far as confidence is concerned, we can consider you guys at a 10, or?
We're up there, like 8, 9, something like that, so.
8, 9. Well, I can respect the confidence for sure, but best of luck to you guys in this setup against Astral Authority, and really excited to see what you guys bring us. Back to you guys on the desk.
Thanks a lot, Taco. Confidence. I love that confidence. Because real talk, and let's just call a spade as we do. I think Astral are the upper card here. They're kind of expected to win, and for InControl to come out just like, and having that coach mentality, right? If I'm playing on a team, I need my coach to be behind me 100%.
Yeah, to like hyping you up. Yeah.
And it sounds like he's right there.
Yeah.
That's key. It really is. And in PlayStation, don't forget, yes, they're using the new, the controller. They're part of the new PlayStation 4 League. But all these guys have had that competitive experience on Xbox before, and that's really big. So this may be their first time on this level of stage. We'll see how they're able to handle that. But for the most part, these guys really aren't that new to competitive.
Not at all. Like we said, Kobe was playing on Astral once upon a time.
Yeah. Earlier this year, he was playing on Astral in the spring of this year. So it really has been a pretty crazy year for him.
What's Joltak's name again?
Joltak?
It's Joltak from Xbox. Oh, that's his gamer tag. So obviously these guys have kind of been around the block. With that said, what is the biggest stopping point? What's going to stop InControl from taking the victory?
I would say Wolves, because if they don't shut down Wolves, or like, all right, if they keep Wolves neutral and make plays around the map, then they have a chance. But if they let Wolves get ahead, nah, it's over.
So it's all about just starving out that right side of the map.
Yeah, Wolves is a pretty big roadblock, though. That's the thing. I mean, back when I was playing against you guys, I would say we just kill Wolves and we're good, and we wouldn't, and we weren't. That's the way this dude operates. That he's an animal in the solo lane. He really is. He's a beast.
It's so different, though. We just got over watching a whole bunch of the pro leaguers play for the PC. How is it that one player can just dominate? I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm lucky enough to be the analyst. Y'all both have been killed by Wolves.
More often than I'd like, yeah. I don't know. I was joking around with some of the players yesterday that I think Wolves is a different client than everybody else. I swear, his Odin just does more damage and is tankier than every other Odin I've ever played against. The dude plays with a lot of confidence, and I think that really does make all the difference.
Yeah, it does.
Is this a special edition jersey?
Yeah, it is.
Did Chapo ask?
He actually got 2 of them.
He got 2 sleeveless jerseys.
Oh, no, he got 1 sleeveless and 1 regular.
1 regular.
And he's only going to wear the sleeveless.
Yeah.
He's got to show off the guns. I mean, that's the glorious house of games right there, right?
It has to, man. You got to be on brand while he's up there on stage. You know what I mean?
All day, every day, homie. That's what he's about. But real talk, again, there it is. I mean, we didn't even ask.
Yeah.
Chapo Flex in the chat. This is what I'm talking about. This is the character that you need on your squad. Exactly. And his gameplay is there. But that infectious attitude literally will win you games.
It really will. I mean, I played with him for long enough to definitely be on. There are definitely 2 sides of the coin. With any hype man, you have the games where it just won't really be there. They fall behind. It's hard for you to make calls and stay aggressive whenever you yourself are behind. And so that's where he needs his teammates to step up, and he can lean on dudes like Wolves, like Oboronic, like Layers that have been there before.
I actually asked Layers who's the shot caller, since Chapo likes the shot call, they actually told me Layers is the shot caller.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me.
Layers has been doing it for a while. We'll see how Chapo reacts. We haven't mentioned oBoronic, and that's almost a crime. oBoronic has been one of the players that I think has really grown the most on the console.
Yeah.
He started off kind of rough, and these days, oBoronic, one of the top.
He's a beast. He really is. He definitely did start off a little rough back in the day, but he has really molded into one of the premier mid laners in all of console. There's no doubt about it. I think him and Crimson are just head and shoulders above everybody else on the controllers right now.
The approach to the game that I see from oBoronic is really important. He seems to put a lot of time in. He's constantly, he after game, before game, really dialed in. You've played with him before. What can you say about oBoronic?
oBoronic's like another me. He's like a silent assassin. Like he just plays the game, I guess.
Just absorbing all of the info that comes across, and he's just able to internalize it. It's been fun kind of watching his growth here and watching what he's been able to do with his squad. We're going to get into the game in just a little bit. The table is set. Astral certainly here and looking to play. InControl, though, these guys have done it before on a different platform. Can they do it here?
The big thing for me is that InControl has nothing to lose. I mean, how could you feel like you have any pressure on you right now if you're InControl? Astral's the one that has to play with all that pressure on.
Yeah, they do. Because what I think is, no, go ahead.
I mean, it happens. Astral right now, they've got control, but do they have control of the whole set? I think that's going to be the big story, is InControl are going to be able to find these streaks, and how long can they stay hot, because Astral has been the consistent squad.
I also think that the meta is being very different is a big thing to be worried about here if you're Astral, because the PS4 League in general, it's a lot more Bakasura top picks. It's a lot more of those weird little off-meta things that are highly prioritized, a lot more Hunbats, things that aren't really quite seen as much on the PC or Xbox side. So Astral may be getting what they want, but maybe InControl will get what they want as well.
Well, first ban so far going to be the Control Mage. No Baron Samedi available for either team. He's been very strong on both platforms, just his ability to kind of maintain control, but he's not a Wolves-style character.
No, not at all.
So I think that's why we see Astral ban it away. They go, hey, Wolves, can you play it? No, then screw it. We don't want to take it. Wheezy right there on the screen. He's going to figure out what he wants to do here. You know where he's from?
Where's that, Tom?
He's from Long Island, baby.
No way, man. Can't believe it.
All the bands done here, and get used to seeing the yellow Odin band.
No, that's perma-banned the sentiment. He's literally perma-banned.
If Wolves play it, do they auto-win the game?
I think so.
More or less, yeah. more or less, that's the way it works. Now that means that you're going to get a priority pick no matter what, and Shen is a pretty good one. Cerberus on the other side, talking about gods that are really heavily prioritized on PS4 where they may not be on other regions. Cerberus is a big one for me. They pick this early and often.
I'm not a goddess of mercy.
Freya's going to come through, one of my personal favorites.
I like that.
Just incredible power. InControl, they've got the Freya. You say you like that. What about it?
Does anybody out-pressure Freya now with the buff? I don't think so, right?
Not really.
Not really, no. And if you pair that with Cerberus in lane, you get that magical prot shred and the ability to clear their wave and play very aggressive early on. We see Splice do that a lot. We saw Space Station Gaming do that a lot on PC at the placement stages. That's a very potent duo lane if they decide to put Cerberus support.
Cerberus Freya, a famous classic combo.
I like the Jing because you could dash off of the Freya Wu. And the Raijin, the past PC games, it look like it's popular right now.
I mentioned it before, Batz, the jungle of choice for InControl. First half of the picks done. Erlang, Shen, Jing and Raijin. The selection here for Astral. No real surprises there. Erlang Shen is out of control. Jing is very safe against Freya. And oBoronic's Raijin is just that good.
I think this Erlang is pretty flexible, though, here for Astral. I mean, you can give it to Layers in the jungle, of course. That's where Erlang looks great. Deathwalker just single-handedly won a set, basically, with it. In the solo lane, you know Wolves will be able to play that. I think you could still play it in support, and if Chapo's going to want to play aggressive, then Erlang Shen could be a great pick for them there.
I love the two bans coming out from InControl as well.
I'm actually confused.
Why is that?
Why would they ban Wukong and Cabrakan?
So the Wukong I don't know about, but the Cabrakan, I like the Cabrakan choice. I think this is a very Chapo-oriented support. He's very aggro, he's up at the opponent's face, and Layers has played this as well. So with Erlang Shen being a little bit heavy, that's Wolves, I think that Cabrakan ban is really nice.
Now Kuang's open, and that's something that if Chapo were in jungle would be snap locked. Probably not. in the support role, but I'm sure Layers has it in the God pool. I think Achilles could look pretty attractive here. If you're on Astral Authority, you immediately start looking for those executes when you see a Khepri.
Right, you're just going down the list there. Is Thanatos relevant at all?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I don't think he's as good as either of the other two characters, but I think he's okay.
All right now.
The Kuang.
Yeah, they're thinking about it. Astral giving it some time. What's the likelihood that Layers plays support for a game?
Zero.
Zero.
Absolutely zero. No way you're taking Layers out of the jungle. No way.
Layers turns back into KP.
Yeah,
That's what happens.
Now maybe we see a little bit of tank Kuang in the support role. That's more likely. Okay. Hey, Haddix has made me a believer of solo tank Kuang, so why not support?
You know what?
The double jungle?
That's actually, jokes aside, can we actually talk about that, Ryan?
Know your
Dan, here's what I'll say. I'd rather have a support.
What about, I don't know, Jungle Poseidon?
This shall be a day
Bellona pressure pick, so it looks to me like it's going to be Erlang support.
Yeah.
With this sort of setup, you get enough magical damage now out of the Kuang in the jungle that you're not worried about being more physical. Again, aggressive in that support role. I think this fits Astral really well.
I like the Agni pick. Kobe played it the last line, and he went off the last 2 games.
A lot of control coming out from this composition in general. No puns as far as the name is concerned, but InControl have brought all of that. Batz, Cerberus, Agni, all 3 of these characters are just going to look to control the battlefield, set up Freya.
And it's AoE damage that's critical as well. The 4 magical does concern me a little bit. Cerberus does mitigate some of those concerns with this extra brush run. There'll be Freya in the ADC, Agni in the mid lane. So 4 magical is a bit scary. It means that Chapo can build something like a Runic Shield or an Aquile and just really go off on this team.
At the same time, 4 magical isn't a death sentence like 4 physical can be. Itemization a little bit tougher.
Yeah, because there's less magic items, the magic defense items. Yeah.
Exactly, the niche items are there, but the pure defense is...
I don't know, I think that's the thing of the past. I mean, Oni Hunters is insane, Genji's is really good, and Kile, Runic Shield are both good. The whole Silver Talisman tree. I think that magic defense got a big buff recently, and so that does concern me a bit.
That'll certainly be a headline. InControl, they've got the control, as their namesake says, Astral, all about aggression. Who comes out on top? Pose that question to Taco and Finch.
Thanks, Tom, Ryan, and Transonics on the desk. Let's get right into the action. Astral up against InControl. Finch here and Taco going right into game 1. It's console time right here at the end of the day. You know it's going to be a big game.
It has to be a big game. I mean, it's been so long since we've had a real opportunity to see what Astral Authority is really all about. This team has been regarded as the #1 team in Xbox Smite for so long, and that's exactly, you are right on the money, Finch, and for a good reason. They have looked absolutely dominant throughout the regular season, and I don't think they plan on slowing down anytime soon.
And you heard them talking about it on the desk. So much of it comes through Wolves and Layers. I mean, these guys, KP, Chaotic Predators, whatever you want to call them, Layers is always just one of the best on the sticks at all times. He loves to play aggressive, loves to pick these high priority assassins and run the game from them, and Wolves is the same way. He oftentimes wins his matchup. Think back to Summerland. My man made Predators look bad, and Predators is insanely good. So, I mean, that's just how strong he can be at times.
But it's that unpredictability that Astral still manages to maintain throughout the years, and that is something that is exclusive to Wolves' playstyle alone.
Yeah.
Whatever he needs to pick, he will make sure to flex it for the team composition. But I think that InControl can bring something new to the board as well. I mean, this is coming from the PS4 side of things, and PS4 meta, while a little bit similar to Xbox and not necessarily similar entirely.
Yeah, I agree. They didn't have a ton of big differences in terms of gods that they liked or anything like that. It was just that, for the most part, it was slightly lower level of play. InControl, I would say, was the exception to that. You know, very much guided by Kovi, who's got a ton of experience from the Xbox as well. Was able to make sure this team was always a bit above everyone else. And we're starting to see some aggression from Astral over here in this duo lane. Chapo and GryphonSlays already looking good.
It's a new platform, but these aren't new players by any means. Kovi, Joltak, Outbowned, they are all former members of that Xbox North America console scene. So it's not like they're completely running into the unknown here.
Right.
They are somewhat aware of some of the aggressive stances that Astral like to take. I definitely think that they're going to have to be very careful about their positioning, because with the pressure that Astral has chosen to draft for game 1 here, even the slightest misstep out of position could spell the end.
it does seem like a bit of a tough reward, doesn't it? They had the play-ins just to make it into the PS4 League. They played through the entire fall split. Then they had to play up against another team from Europe PS4, and their reward at the end of all of that, Astral Authority, right? Just like the best team on console right now, and it feels like one of the most consistent teams, particularly when we look towards Wolves and Layers, and Oboronic's been here essentially all of Season 5 as well, so it's just a tough ask.
Already a little bit of poke, though, going on to Griffin. So you like to see that kind of stuff from Joltak, those aggressive pulls in from the Khepri, trying to abuse this Jing Wei early on.
Trying to do something to slow her down in lane. Actually going in aggressive here is GryphonSlays, also Cyprexa, whichever you prefer for him, but he's making some big plays over in the dual lane, at least trying to. Not going to find much more there in the back end, but this Astral team is a team full of history, and they'll show some of that here as a bit of a wraparound coming through from Chapo as they find the knock-up, trying to find first blood as well. Griffin finds it, and they want to go for the second one, aggressively forcing Joltak back into the tower.
Really nice autos there from Griffin, every single one of them on the money, and you can bet that the taunts are going to come out after. You already took down the Freya, and you can start to get into your opponent's heads early on.
And there's more pressure over here on the solo side. No big surprise to see Wolves taking this Bellona over to the solo lane and is already asserting his dominance. He wants to come stop the blue buff, where they actually had Rygaklu come over to the jungler to try and defend it. The bludgeon should land and forces him away.
And that's not the only point of the map that's being focused out right now. InControl having to try and play defense on their red buff, and they're not going to be successful in that either. Shaolin hasn't had an opportunity to back just yet either, and it looks as though Wolves is going to get away with this one. So both blue buff and the red buff going in Astral Authority's favor.
And that's what happens when you have pressure all over the map. You can also find a very strong first blood. Let's actually go back and look at the respawn first blood they found over there in the duo lane. Strong plays from Griffin, but Chapo is the one that comes in from the jungle. He loops around and sets this up, kind of baits in control.
And that's just one of those moments where if you're outbound in this situation, you have to be expecting that Erlang wraparound. It's so not unusual to see an Erlang look for those aggressive pathways.
Or any support, really, yeah.
And Freya is such an immobile hunter, especially at level 2. She probably doesn't have the banish just yet, probably a little bit more focused on just looking for the clear and the wave. A rather unfortunate early spill, though, because once you find the first kill against that Freya, it feels like it's a million times easier to find the second, third, and anything else that might follow.
Looks like we might have a quick pause coming out here from Wolves. We'll try and get everything situated with the players, but you're exactly right. When you're on this Freya, it really can be a setback when you're pushed back, especially because you've got the Erlang support in that lane that you're going up against Chapo piloting that one. You really can't afford to give away any extra pressure in that lane because Erlang so often is able to force it, just generate it on his own anyway.
InControl knew what they were headed into, though, right? You have to imagine that Astral are just going to be relentless in that early game pressure. When you see Erlang, Raijin, even the Bellona, you know that they want to centralize full lane control. That way they can look to play aggressively into the jungle, find those early red buff, blue buff, purple buff invades, whatever floats their boat, because the sooner you build up a lead, the more difficult it'll be for InControl to try and reestablish a level playing field.
And we say it all the time, if you are going into a matchup where your big advantage is just more experience, which I think it's very fair to say is Astral's advantage, then limiting them in the early game is so important as they are able to get right back into the action. Looks like everyone's okay here with the players. Is limiting that early game. A lot of the times these teams with less experience can look really good early and they fall apart late. Don't give them that chance to look good even early. InControl now already with their backs against the wall a bit.
But the bright side is they might be down 1,100 gold currently, but that doesn't mean that they're incapable of recovering that lead. Right now, everything is kind of riding on the fact that Astral have the invade presence. As soon as they lose that, those are the moments where we can start to see the punishment come through from InControl, and that's what we really need to keep an eye out for. The rotations to match up against some of those invades, and InControl choosing to actually take the moment in control.
And that was when it becomes tough, as actually a nice stun lands. That's going to pull Wolves back underneath the tier 1, but he's able to shrug it off. In fact, might be a bit of a bait, as he's got Chapo here, but a good jump coming out from ShaolinSSins. And that is more than enough to get him away from danger. But now the blue buff spawning and Chapo right there.
And that's the only reason why Chapo's here to begin with. He doesn't show presence in that lane because he expects Wolves to actually find a solo kill or even his assistants to make a difference. Shaolin was safe there no matter what. the same cannot be said for that blue buff. And if these invades continue to happen, then it could start to be a little bit of a devastating difference between the two teams.
And this is the part that's tough, because it's going to be very difficult for Joltak on this Khepri to try and match Chapo's ability to rotate around the map, right? Chapo can essentially play, he's free to move around the map. He's going to move around the map just faster anyway because he's not a Khepri, and have a bigger impact when he gets there. And since he's the one coming over here to invade the blue buff, Rygaklu's likely elsewhere. There might be some trouble now for Chapo, though, as he finds the two-man taunt.
Fear no evil, going to keep Chapo pinned down into the wall.
They jumped away?
Agni just wasn't close enough. If XCovi had been aware from the start that that was the intention from Rygaklu and Joltak, I think that we see XCovi looking to rotate sooner to get those bomb damage spread, but because he wasn't ever really notified until it was too late, Chapo gets to not only absorb a free Fear No Evil, which is a huge team fighting aspect for InControl, but it only cost him his own ultimate.
A nice trade if you're Chapo for sure to be able to make it out of that one, because he certainly looked as if there was not going to be a way out for him, but he's able to make it out. Going in aggressively is GryphonSlays trying to take down Outbound, but I think he recognizes that that might not have been the actual play. He does force Outbound up into the air with Valkyrie's discretion and responds with his own airstrike.
Griffin went for the damage check, but it usually works a little bit better when the persistent gust actually connects. In that kind of circumstance, falling back is the only option Griffin really had. And Outbound just going to have to wait a little bit longer, I think, before he can try to find that solo kill.
Yeah, I think Outbound did everything, I guess, in that situation the right way. It was Griffin who went kind of aggressive, had a big wave there to worry about too, but he made it out A-okay, no big problem. So it's just ended up being ultimate for ultimate. And he'll still very likely have the control here in this lane on the Jingwei. But you saw why this matchup is so popular. The Jingwei into the Freya, able to even be aggressive out of the banish instead of being that sitting duck.
It's a reactive hunter pick, though, I think, from Astral's side of things. Griffin, if he had his way, would probably look to play something a little bit more aggressive than Jingwei early on, but so far doesn't seem to be slowing him down all that much. Good vision on the left-hand side is going to ensure that Griffin will not get ganked by Rygaklu today.
Yeah, he does do a good job of getting back. Fear No Evil, the tail end, is able to find Chapo, but good control from the Taiko drums. Chapo goes back in, but he knew he had the heal coming, so he makes it back out A-okay, even though Astral can't find any more kills.
For as aggressive as Astral started out in this match, though, you would have almost expected him to have a much bigger lead by now, and yet InControl are still managing to keep within that 1 to 2,000 level disparity between the teams, and at a golden difference like that, it's not going to amount to all that much of anything because it's so early on in the match. Even a simple one team fight is really all it would take for InControl to one more time be in control of this game.
Yeah, the two big problem areas for me, Taco, are the solo lane and duo lane, where ShaolinSSins is repeatedly getting his blue buff stolen away, and where GryphonSlays seems to pretty clearly have the lane pressure over in duo. If those two can get resolved, or they don't give up much more there, and they're able to keep the lead from Astral contained there, they should be okay. But if it starts to affect jungle and mid as well and spread throughout the map, that's when InControl's in trouble.
Well, you can already see Wolves has gotten a decent little chip out of Shaolin's tower there in the solo lane. So once that T1 actually goes down, that's when InControl has to really start to worry, because then the Wolves rotations will start to come through. And if Wolves is allowed to have any sort of impact or influence over these early game team fights, I'm not really certain how InControl managed to recover that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he's looking to be this aggressive either. He went right into the Berserkers to start. We don't get to see this item as much anymore because we really don't even see Warriors over here in the solo lane that much anymore. There's so many Guardians that play well. We even see Mages sometimes, like the Barons and Chang'as. But now with Wolves over here piloting it with this very auto-attack focused god, he's able to get a ton out of that item.
Interesting to note, though, that Outbound, rather than finishing off that original ring tree he had started off with, he started building into the book side of things. And so I'm almost wondering if this is going to end up being a Book of Thoth, for example. I know we've been seeing a little bit of Freya play leaning towards that, where they'll rush the book and then they'll look for the Polynomicon shortly after to get a really nice power spike. But when you're the member that got first blooded and trying to keep up an experience against a Jingwei can be difficult as is. So for Outbound, the question is, if he is going for that book start, then will it be too little too late to have actually opted for this?
It is going to feel like it's going to slow him down a significant amount, right? Like having to try to wait on getting the Book of Thoth not just completed, but then stacked in a matchup, as you said, where he's already pretty significantly behind, and Griffin has his Devourer's Gauntlets finished and are already stacking. It could be tough for him to try to make up the difference, but it's such a big item for Freya. I get why he wants it. as Outbowned actually jukes a few autos and makes his way out of there.
Really well played by Outbound to just disengage entirely. They knew that the follow-up rotation from Chapo and Layers was about to come through. But instead of taking down Outbound, it seems as though Astral have another objective in mind. It's the Gold Fury.
Yeah, this is absolutely the call if you're Astral Authority to try and get this started. But it looks like they don't want to stick on to it. Not once InControl show a little bit of presence nearby. Instead, they'll fall back and farm. And why not? So far, they've been able to farm essentially whatever it is that they want on the map. It's been like a carousel. And whoever gets off nearest to that enemy blue buff when it spawns gets to steal it away from ShaolinSSins that time.
It seems as though we're probably not going to see any future engagements until around that mid-game period, and we are starting to approach the ending phase of laning. And what I am hoping to see from InControl is just them trying to utilize some of this space denial that they have, because you've got the Fear No Evil, you've got XCovi with the Agni bombs, even Stingent Torment from Shaolin can be excellent setup. And I really like the overall spread of damage that InControl have going for them, although it can be problematic when you consider the amount of burst that Astral Authority can match it with.
That's right. Astral shouldn't have too hard of a time eliminating a single target very quickly, though I think you're right. In terms of like a team fight composition, InControl's is very scary. With the Agni paired up with the Unbots, it's so much area that they control. You throw in ShaolinSSins there, and then where do you use your beads? Am I using it on the Fear No Evil? Am I using it on Stitching and Torment? Or if a stray Banish lands too? It's so many questions you have to answer as a very aggressive Chapo goes in the back line, absorbs the Fear No Evil and turns things around, force out the Cerberus blessing, but the execute goes right through Layers, finds another kill, and he wants more.
He wants XCovi, but he's not going to be able to find him. Instead, he gets Rygaklu. Death by association, and there's nowhere left for the monkey to run. So he'll be headed back to base with Joltak. And I don't think that could have gone any worse for InControl.
No, not at all. Big damage coming out from Layers on the Kuang, and they'll come right back to the Gold Fury on the back end. This door has been kicked wide open by that play that Chapo was able to set up. He baits out so many abilities inside that narrow jungle corridor, and the rest of his team is right there to follow up. Layers with the execute punishes Joltak.
It's just the timing is everything, and the Fear No Evil looks so promising because it's just Chapo surrounded by members from InControl, and yet he's the one that comes out practically unscathed, and it's just a full collapse in return from Astral Authority. You have to appreciate the way that they utilize that jungle corridor to separate two different sides of InControl.
And this is absolutely the way that Chapo likes to play. He plays very cavalier with his own life. He uses it like as a resource to debate out abilities and positions from his enemy team and trust that his team will be able to follow up on the back end. And it very often works for him, especially with a team this stacked with talent. Chapo is able to play that way all the time.
You think it's the sleeveless Astral Authority?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think that gives like Chapo a +10 power passive.
I think it like might make him a little bit extra cold up there, so he wants to finish the game really quickly maybe, and that's why he's willing to dive a little bit further as Pyromancer now goes in favor of Astral as well. Now they've got the Gold Fury and the Pyro on the map.
And it can be a little bit overwhelming for InControl because, oh, hold that thought though. Griffin with his first solo kill of the game finds it onto Outbound with the airstrike. Aegis, just because why not when you're in the middle of a taunting cycle?
Right, that part probably not intentional there from Griffin, but luckily that's just between us, him, and the audience, right? As long as InControl don't recognize it, he should be okay. They won't be able to like capitalize on it, hopefully.
Still, Outbound never even had an opportunity to use his Aegis, even after landing on the ground. I just don't think he was expecting the immediate airstrike follow-up, so the reactive timers, I think, just have to be a little bit better there from Outbound. I understand in the knockup you don't want to use your purification beads because you're already up in the air, there's nowhere left for you to go, but upon landing, you've got to anticipate that airstrike.
Make sure you have that Aegis ready, and Astral are ready for more aggression. Joltak yet to get into the target, and the revive is not going to save you from the execute. Layers finds that Oboronic, finds one as well, though a great response from XCovi to make it at least 1 for 2. But Astral Authority have gotten essentially everything they've wanted so far. They might even try and force down this tier 1.
XCovi putting his team on the board, though, that's a start. It is a start for InControl. They might end up losing this T1 tower, but instead, Astral Authority thinking better of it. Safe, not sorry. That is the mentality that this team should be rolling with, because I really like what Visions actually addressed during that pregame interview, where they're not looking to underestimate this team by any circumstances.
And they haven't so far. They've played very methodically. They've seen where their windows are, and they've absolutely capitalized. It started with those blue buff invades. Chapo's been able to bait his life very well and force an overreaction from InControl, and the rest of the team can capitalize. I think that Astral's played very cleanly so far, and their reward for that is about a 3K gold lead, maybe even more.
The real difference maker so far has been Layers, just because of that execute on the AO. It has been so problematic because Joltak has had a lot of really nice scare blessing time rings, but it just doesn't matter when you have that execute, and that's exactly what Astral Authority were aiming for from the get-go.
Trying to find a way to punish through. Sometimes we see it's the Achilles, right, that the execute picked up in response to the revive, but this time we're seeing it coming out as the out Kuang for Layers, so he's been able to make it work for him here so far in this game. Every time that revive has come down, the Scarab's Blessing on top of Joltak, Layers said, okay, it's my turn, I'll step in, get the execute, go up into the dragon form, and drop back down. Only mistake, though, is we're not seeing the Admiral out Kuang. I want to see the SS Quanger come out.
You just had to drop the SS Quanger, didn't you?
Anytime I see an out Kuang, you know, that is his official name. Aggro has approved it, so that means that it definitely is the official name.
Oh, it's got to be good if Aggro gives it the heads up, right?
Yep. We're going with it now, and he has signed off on it. Nothing you can say about it.
Outbound could be in a little bit of trouble. Banish off the mark, and these autos are really starting to pack a punch here.
Yeah.
Not sure that was even a crit on the last hit. I think that's just the level disparity between the two. And Griffin understanding what kind of an advantage he has right now over Outbound. Gonna try and get some more hits onto this T1 tower, but look at the collapse coming through from Chapo. He's aiming straight for Outbound.
He's got the good recognition, a perfect two-man taunt, but the res does go through this time. Tycho drums in response, actually leaves oBoronic in a bad spot. XCovi finds the first kill of this engagement, and Astral might have finally overstepped. A great response from InControl.
Bit off a little bit more than they could chew there in that last engagement. Going into the T2 might have been a little bit preemptive here, but they'll find something for it anyhow. Joltak gonna go up into the air. AO with the execute. Outbound soon to follow. And just nowhere left for this dual lane to run. This T1 tower is nobody's safe haven for InControl.
No, the Astral Authority make up for that small mistake they made. I think this was the first time the Scarab's Blessing was actually able to finally res a target, and that's what made the big difference in that last fight. So the second time, they're like, all right, no one getting res this time. We're making sure we kill y'all properly.
Well, right now, Wolves, unfortunately, a little bit late to the party here. Might have missed the memo that the rotation was needed a little bit earlier on, but he still accomplishes his goal anyway. Might have been causing a diversion at that red buff on purpose, because while XCovi was spamming his bombs onto the Bellona, the T2 tower is being sieged by Astral.
That's extra gold right into their pockets, about 1,500 spread across the team, and that's going to mean about a 7,000 gold lead, about 8,000 experience. A pretty substantial lead for not even 20 minutes into the game. This one's starting to slip further and further away from InControl. They got to find a way to throw on the brakes.
But this is also where Astral Authority have to be careful not to overstep those boundaries, like that play we just saw over in the T2 tower, because one kill in exchange for two ends up working out in Astral Authority's favor because they were able to siege that T2 tower shortly after. But imagine that taking place at, say, 30 minutes, for example. Right. And then InControl have a little bit more experience to their players, a little bit more itemization under their belts. That's where the real punishment could come into effect.
Bit of a fight here around the purple buff. A good banish from Outbound will mean that InControl are able to make it for the disengage. You get back to not even a tier 2. That's right, it's already been taken and just able to get far enough away. Now Gold Fury will be the target. It's already at below half health, but they drop it. They want to try and make the collapse on the back end. Staging Torment comes out from ShaolinSSins, and Rygaklu finds the first kill on oBoronic.
Right now, though, it's all about Chapo trying to escape, but he's surrounded in the middle of the heart of everybody from InControl. Outbound finds his first kill of the game, but it's all the Layers show so far. Res is good, but the execute is even better. That's a double kill for Wolves, or Layers, excuse me, and Wolves just finishing him off with the hat trick.
They're going to make XCovi the next target. He's going to have a hard time finding his way out of here. Goes back in to try and find the return kill, but a double now for Wolves. Griffin comes back in and makes it the full-on deicide. And Astral Authority, with their Hunter still healthy, could go for the Gold Fury, or they can make a nice little journey right over to the Fire Giant.
Layers might be low, but he won't be for much longer. Got enough lifesteal on this AO to be able to not only push up the mid-wave, but right now, Astral Authority, they understand how much time they actually have, and because Griffin has the Poison Star and the Executioner, they can afford to to take a little bit longer before making their way over to this Fire Giant. It's going to be shredded by the time Rygaklu and Joltak even make it past the T2 tower.
Yeah, they have more than enough damage, and everyone else from the team is up in time for the Fire Giant to go to all 5 members, Taco. A big swing in Astral's favor. Things already were pretty heavily Astral skewed, but winning the fight near the Gold Fury and grabbing the Fire Giant on the back end has started to put this game even further out of reach or in control. 12,000 experience, nearly 10,000 gold. It's been dominant from the Xbox top team.
I just don't think InControl are resetting fast enough. They find an initial pick onto oBoronic, and that is solid. Then they find a follow-up kill onto Chapo, which, of course, is still obviously favorable for the team, but they expended all of their cooldowns just for those 2 picks alone. Meanwhile, Astral Authority are still looking for the flanks. Layers, especially alongside of Wolves, they approach from 2 different directions, and so it just felt like InControl weren't sure which way to actually look.
They weren't able to find anyone else that they could punish, and Astral Authority did a good job exploiting that weakness, taking the DSI and grabbing more in the back end. Now, Griffin will not be able to get the Gold Fury, which he was thinking about. A good job from Rygaklu showing some presence here to force them back. But now, with oBoronic joining the fray, they should be able to grab a Tier 1 tower. In right will also fall, and it's starting to be too many threads pulled for InControl to try and respond to. Astral are really spreading the map.
With both towers and now the Gold Fury already removed from the left-hand side of the map, even though it would be ideal to take that left side Phoenix, I'm pretty certain Astral are going to want to bring down all these towers first and foremost. T1 not going to stand a chance against this Fire Giant squad, but the T2 could be a different story entirely. InControl might be looking to see what kind of poke they can get, basically a little damage check of their own.
They're showing some small presence here, and I like it. Just not letting them grab all these Tier 2 towers for free. I don't know if they want to full commit to a fight here this far down, but at the very least, you can't let Astral just walk in and take them all that easily. At least make them waste some time on the FG, commit something to earn this Tier 2 tower.
Well, Astro will have to wait for the next creep wave before they really feel comfortable pushing in here. Shaolin hugging inside that speed buff, but doesn't seem like he's all that interested in jumping in just yet. And Astral Authority will bring down the mid T2, now setting their eyes towards this right-hand side, and no one from InControl even bothering to follow. So this little ambush that Astral were planning out might just go left unseen.
Looks like they might be trying to collapse on the ShaolinSSins here in the mid lane. The jump already down. He does have Stygian Torment available, trying to get himself out as Chapo wants to keep up the chase. But they forced out the sprint. At this point, InControl should have disengaged well enough that Astral have to go looking somewhere else.
Astral still have about another minute and a half though left on this Fire Giant, so it's not a complete waste to look for that pick. They understand that Shaolin is probably the only frontlining member for initiation that InControl have at their disposal. And so without this Cerberus, it's going to be too much pressure, I think, for Joltak, because he's more focused on peeling for his carries. That's the sole purpose of a Khepri in this situation, I think, and going for this double Guardian setup, because you want Shaolin to be the one that's able to start up a fight, and then Joltak just helps ensure that your team comes out on top of it.
And for what it's worth, he's not too far behind. He's level 19 for the Cerberus in the solo lane, and has 5 items finished off. Just needs to get rid of that Guardian's Blessing and put one more in the slot. He went with that Wing Blade, which is some nice cheap health to try and help him out a little bit. So he can still do some frontlining for the team, but it's just so tough into all this damage from oBoronic and Griffin, even Layers at this point, especially Layers, is going to make life hard.
And what's even worse is that Wolves, understanding that with this double warrior frontline, it's going to be rather difficult for the Sieges to come through unless they have a heavy snowballed lead. And sure, there is definitely a pretty significant lead in terms of experience and goal between these two teams, probably around 15,000 on both of those ends. But I like the Emperor's armor, specifically for the fact that they have the double warrior front line, because otherwise, I don't think we see Astral Authority having a very fun time looking to bring down these Phoenixes.
Looks like they are going to slow down the actual sieging stage, though, for a little while. Not going to push into the Gold Furies just yet. They've gotten all the towers off the map, all the gold you could ask for out in front, about 16,000. And at this point, it's all still very, very much relevant, as no one in InControl is even approaching being 6-slotted. So Astral are enjoying all of that lead. They still have time. They can move back over to this Fire Giant, grab that, and then push back in. But if you're InControl, I mean, what do you need to try and make this defense happen? It feels like a perfect Fear No Evil, a perfect Stygian Torment.
Not necessarily. I think a good Fear No Evil for sure can help make a pretty significant difference, but they do have the double Guardian front line, and that will always be a pretty difficult factor to tackle, because even with all the burst damage that Astral Authority have, if they don't find a kill from their initial run, they don't have a whole lot that they continue to re-engage with. They're just relying on their lead and their damage to end the fight early.
Right, I think that the big deal would be if they could get a successful revive off in the fight, if they can somehow avoid whoever the res target is, get them away from Layers on this Kuang that execute. That was what was really such a detriment for them early game. It essentially meant one of their big team fighting ultimates was non-existent because Layers able to chew right through it.
But that's just credit to Layers, because every single time Joltak looked to res somebody, it was an immediate target focus onto that individual. It didn't matter what part of the team that they are playing. InControl have just not been allowed to use this Khepri's ultimate in the slightest, and it's practically made Joltak irrelevant. So these Phoenix defenses are the only real shot that Joltak's gonna have for getting these revives off.
And this might be a little bit more difficult for them. We'll see what the engage plan is. They do have a blink for Layers if they want to send him in. So far, it's been a lot of Chapo just kind of turtling in and just being bigger than everybody else that's around at the point. So we'll see if that might be what they want to look at. They've got a couple of options of how they want to engage.
Still a little bit of hesitation, though, from Astral, because they've got this split push factor going in right now. Layers might be looking for the 1v1 up against Rygaklu, but with the wave having already been cleared from the overhand smash, he might just have to sit this one out a little bit longer.
Wolves absorbing quite a bit of damage, half HP, but Fear No Evil comes in to try and punish, finds no one. In fact, Chapo goes back in for a taunt of his own, but Stygian Torment means round 2, and they bring one more back into the tower, but Wolves still alive, makes his way out. Now it's the Taiko drums, time for the clap back from the Raijin in the middle lane, but Astral can't find much there. InControl hold on to their Phoenix.
But Wolves can back, upgrade his teleport, and then immediately come back into the fight, and that's the problem here for InControl. They're not going to be prepared for this.
Chapo gets locked down underneath the Phoenix. He might be in trouble, but it's Layers who is able to find the kill. Unstoppable as he gets the execute up into the air. Comes right back down, though, to rejoin his team. It's 5v4 again, and InControl still hold on to their Phoenix.
The Phoenix hasn't even been touched, though. And when you look at it, you would have expected that Astral would have at least gotten a couple of autos in there, but Griffin has just not been allowed to hit that Phoenix at all. So kudos to InControl for being willing to stand up in front of him.
ShaolinSSins trying to be the front line. They'll send Rygaklu in instead, but he also has to jump back, and just like that, the Phoenix on the right-hand side comes down. Astral able to burn it quite quickly once Griffin is able to get a few autos off. No real way to defend that 4v5.
That's a 200 IQ call from me, by the way, with the caster's curse.
Right, yeah. As soon as you said like they were having trouble getting Griffin in, they immediately.
I'm telling you, 3-second delay. That's all it takes.
That's about it. Yeah. Again, I still haven't really honed mine in just yet. You know, I think we're still working.
You got to learn how to use it a little bit better here, man. I mean, we're 28 minutes in, and already I've given Astral a Phoenix.
That was nice of you.
They can PayPal me later.
Yeah, they'll hit you up, I'm sure. Talk to him after the game, as Astral now firmly in control, as if they weren't already. About a 19K gold lead. The right side Phoenix now down. We did see that there was a little bit of trouble for them trying to find their way in. It's mostly just Wolves and Chapo kind of walking at the other team and trying to set their fights up that way. If InControl can stabilize a little bit longer, like you said, these Guardians can really start to become a problem.
Honestly, though, I'm not even all that concerned about the right side Phoenix because of the fire minions. I think that that's actually more beneficial for InControl, that they have a consistent lane that they could possibly farm out of.
Right.
The issue that I'm having is that with the right side Phoenix being exposed, it now gives a secondary routing opportunity that Layers can look to take to sneak into the backline from InControl when Chapo and Wolves are looking to play aggressive for whatever next Phoenix they choose to try and siege.
That could potentially be a problem for them, but you're right. That fire mini wave is always going to win out and be up close near them so they can farm it relatively safely, but Astral not going to give them time to sit back and farm. They're already knocking on the door of the left side Phoenix. They've got the wave pushed up. Chapo and Layers are pushing up the mid wave. They got a nice split going on. And oBoronic is still hustling, making his way to the action.
Layers headed towards that right-hand side. He wants to bring up that creep wave to ensure that the fire minions will be there. Even if it's a mild distraction, it's still one that's going to force at least a single member from InControl to pay mind to.
Someone's got to come over and defend this, or Layers just keep right on pushing. This Kuang has so much damage. He's got 2 over here on the right-hand side. Rygaklu and ShaolinSSins considering helping out. Only 3 on the left side to defend, because ShaolinSSins has to watch the mid lane too. They've got a wave there. Astral done a good job spreading InControl thin.
Joltak trying to throw out a little bit of pressure here just to prevent any initiations, but it's Griffin who's getting blown up right away. Doesn't even get a chance. No, the airstrike barely making it out of there.
And that's almost all Xcovi. Big damage from those Agni bombs over the wall on the right-hand side, and GryphonSlays got to run for the hills. And without that Jing wave, that's going to slow down this push a lot. Now, the rapid reincarnation can get them back quick, but I think they might want to go grab that Fire Giant instead, Taco, and try and be entirely topped off before they make their push.
I'm more impressed by the fact that Griffin actually had enough life RNG to live there, because anybody else, I think we all know, there's some kind of dot damage that applies to kill him when he's at 1 HP.
Yeah, no one else gets to fly on out of there. So that one, fortunately, coming up his way, as Astral will certainly be making their way towards the Fire Giant. And InControl have got to start thinking, I believe, about ways to not let the aggression get out of control so early in game 2, right? I mean, Wolves had so much pressure on the blue side. The dual lane got into control right away between Chapo and Griffin. They got to find some way to slow that down.
It's not going to be easy, though, even for Astral Authority. The fact that they were having difficulty sieging on that left-hand side with the lead that they've built up, it just goes to show that InControl have no intentions of letting these Firebirds go for free. If Astral Authority want to breach the base again, they're going to have to work for it.
You heard it from InControl is a team with a lot of confidence. In that interview where you spoke to them, they know how strong this Astral team is, but they believe they've got enough to make this work. Some new talent, a mix of some old talent as well. That's a pretty strong combination that could definitely get this done, but Astral not going to make it easy for this InControl team. They've got higher aspirations, as the pin doesn't quite land for the root, and they're going to try and muscle their way through the mid-Phoenix.
But that's just the thing, though. This isn't an Astral composition that I see them wanting to take this match past the 25-minute mark even. So for InControl to have held on this long means that it's very likely Astral Authority could fumble on some of these Phoenix sieges.
Mid-Phoenix, though, does go down. InControl don't really have a chance to make any kind of defense there. And Astral Authority, clean as you like, going to move right over to the left side and pick up this wave as well, so they can start looking for their push. InControl didn't even really get to make much of an attempt on that mid-Phoenix. They're definitely got to make something happen on this left side, or Astral just going to walk their way in.
Griffin and Chapo bringing up the waves, like any good teammates would. But more importantly, it's been about Wolves and his patience with these blinks on the Kuang.
Yeah, I think it's been good between him and Layers, both on when they're deciding to make these initiations and find their way into the fight. So that's one more to keep an eye on. Where's Layers going to be in this fight? When's he going to pick his moment to jump in and try and blow someone up on InControl? It might be in response to a Scarab's Blessing.
Jump away from Rygaklu in the mid lane.
Why?
Seems like he doesn't want anything to deal with this AO, and I don't blame him.
He does not.
Sheer 1v1, fear no evil, not going to have any effect against the Mad Guys, but the same can't be said for Chapo. He's taking way too much damage underneath that left side Phoenix.
CG and Torment pulled 2 in. Tycho jumps there in response, but didn't find much damage. But either way, InControl have fallen back. Now it's Rygaklu coming back in. Fear no evil hits the whole team, overhand smash. Not enough to finish up as ShaolinSSins jumps in as well, but he might be in a bit of trouble as he gets knocked up by Chapo. Good banish from Outbound, and it's Layers who reinitiates. Execute finds it on the ShaolinSSins. The Cerberus is out of there.
All 3 Phoenixes now stripped away here for InControl, so the fire minions are soon to be pouring in any second now, and Astral Authority know it. They're just grouping up in the mid lane. They want to keep these waves pushed. They want to make sure that they have fire minions from all 3 sides, because InControl, whether it's the creeps or Astral, they're not going to be able to hold on to this Titan for much longer here, Finch.
Wolves moves in first. He's the one with the aggro Titan, now well below half HP. It's getting burned entirely too quickly. Astral Authority grabbed the victory in game 1. InControl, reeling after a strong performance off your Xbox #1 seed.
And Astral Authority, the whole way through, it just felt like they were the ones who were in control.
Yeah.
It was just so difficult, I think, for InControl to try and look for that comeback opportunity because of how much on a dash pressure Wolves was able to provide alongside of Chapo. You saw either Chapo or Wolves at every single one of those buff invades.
They were there repeatedly on that blue side. That got such a big advantage for Wolves right off the bat. Griffin and Chapo did a good job controlling that dual lane as well and building up a lead from there. Some big adjustments going to need to be made by InControl in game #2. Let's go ahead and get it back over to the analysts on the desk. Maybe they've got some ideas.
Thanks a lot there, John Finch. Great job of the call alongside Taco. And what a great job Astral did. Honestly, can I pat us on the back?
If you want.
We told you guys, listen, it's about Wolves, it's about Layers, and how do they win that game, Trans?
Listen, I think Cerb is not the call. If they want a chance, they need somebody to at least match Wolves. They can't let Wolves steal the blue buff and out-pressure them now.
Wolves got big, and then Wolves and Layers literally 2v5.
We watched it.
It was a 5-man Bellona ult with an Kuang on your team.
But the goal is to get them neutral and solo so they could make plays in dual lane, but then dual lane got first blooded. So that was just, it wasn't looking too hot.
Rough stuff across the board, but let's take a look at the post-game stats presented by Access Replay. 8-0-6, 2-0-4. Together, the right side of the map for Astral go 10-0-9, a large part of what this team was able to do. And I mean, look at the damage. The numbers just speak for themselves.
Yeah, oBoronic didn't have the best score line, but did plenty of damage. Layers was doing exactly what his job is, which is play cleanup crew on this Kuang. He played it beautifully. Wolves able to frontline. I will say, both teams need to work on their relic usage a little bit. Outbound was very, very late a lot of times. oBoronic died with Aegis up a ton. Griffin ends up taking his whole health bar because he decides to hold beads on a Phoenix Siege. I mean, that has got to be cleaned up for game 2.
What I do like about Griffin is that he was dashing in every wave, and if he trades ults with Freya, that's actually a win from him because he has a dash, Freya doesn't. So that makes Freya easily gankable.
As soon as you get rid of Freya's ability to get out of the fight, then all of a sudden you're in a position to just take care of Freya and push her out of the fight. So I agree. I like that aggression. I also like what we saw out of XCovi for the most part as well. I think he was able to get off his damage. It just wasn't able to prevent the onslaught from the right side.
I agree. I think XCovi had a pretty solid game, all things considered. But when a fight like this goes against you, it's really hard to come back from.
I mean, the double kill for Wolves, and this was the 2v5 fight.
The 2v8, the 2v8ers, that's what they call themselves.
It felt like it at times. I mean, those two definitely didn't get a lot of help that fight in particular, and that was InControl's moment, where they feel like they're winning the fight, we're surging forward, we finally got him, we can actually take this win, and then you get Wolves, and every team has that to you, happen to you at some point. It just happened to them with Layers right there on top.